Right, before we continue with the juicy content that we have lined up for you today,
So juicy.
I'm going to do a little advert. An advert for us. An advert for our Patreon. You should become a patron because it's the coolest club in town, and I love being a member of gangs. If you are a member of that gang, you get all sorts of cool shit. You get to listen to our episode weekly, 2 days early. You get extra bonus episodes.
Yep.
If you give us more money, then you get
But hang on.
stuff.
Order now, and we will also throw in a discount to the live event that's
to
coming
our
up.
live event. I was getting right into that, Chris.
You don't watch enough QVC.
But yeah, we occasionally do live shows, and in a couple of weeks on Sunday the something of November
Sunday the 24th of November
in Glasgow
in Glasgow
at the Flying Duck, we are going to be doing a live mixtape where each of us are going to bring an album of a genre. We're going to talk about the genre in depth, and that genre is going to be pop punk. I mean, fucking hell.
Heaven help us.
Mark has had a little pop punk boner for about a month since we announced it.
Mark's had a pop punk boner since you could
Barf.
get
since
you could get boners.
So it's going to be really fun. There's going to be some live entertainment. I think it's £5 normally, but if you're a Patreon subscriber, you get a little cheeky wee discount there.
So we basically give you your money back.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
So yeah, come along. It'll be fun. And you can shout
heckle.
at us. You can
heckle.
heckle us live.
And if you time it well, I will be unable to cut it out of the edit, and you will be captured for posterity in our back catalogue.
Well, if that isn't selling something, then I don't know what is.
Most creative heckle gets a pint
Yeah,
thrown
that's
at
fair.
him.
Alright, so yeah, go to patreon.com/unsuggedpod and sign up to whatever level of tax that you are comfortable with.
And even if you don't do that, come and see us. And
Yeah, just come see us, yeah.
try before you buy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Well, buy, then try, and then buy some more.
Hello, chaps.
Hello there,
Governor.
Gavna.
How are we? How are we all?
I'm very well, thank you. Chris,
Recovering.
you're recovering. You went to Italy and spent most of it hungover from a night that you had in Glasgow before you went to Italy.
It doesn't happen often, but I was in bad shape.
You had a bad gin.
I've only got myself to blame. Kind of kicking myself a wee bit as well.
So you turned 38 and then you took like years off your life.
Well, you just took one more year off my life because I turned 39.
I thought you were 38. Fuck, sorry man.
I know,
He's got a very youthful face.
Does.
tell me about it, man.
God.
But yeah, I mean, I managed to have a good time. The food is fantastic. The city of Bologna is wonderful.
Yeah, Bologna.
Bologna. And I mean, I can't complain. I just have to take some lessons from the experience and remember why it is that I am such a lightweight.
Well, yeah.
I mean, don't drink so much. Jägermeister's probably a good start.
Yeah, it's probably the beginning of the story.
You know that thing where everybody's like, my drink was spiked. I think somebody spiked my Jägermeister with Jägermeister.
Yeah. There were 5 Jägermeisters in my one Jägermeister. Mark, how have you been?
I've been okay. I have a bit of a cold, which sucks. I have been chilling out. I'm going to Manchester this coming Saturday.
Who are you going to see, Mark?
Hot Water Music. Or if you hear this on the Monday, I've been to Manchester and I've seen Hot Water Music.
You know what you should have
I hope it was swell.
Yeah, you should have leveraged our episode against a freebie.
I should have.
Yeah, I know.
Man.
Did it get voted in? It got voted in,
I think
didn't
I voted in, yeah.
Yeah.
I also did one of the most middle class things I've ever done, and I bought a Simba mattress, which comes tomorrow.
Oh,
Mate, I'm with you. Last Christmas, I just told my folks to spend a small fortune on a really fancy pillow, and it's one of the best things I've ever had.
yeah, for my birthday last year, I asked for a good set of pans.
There we go.
That's
Yeah.
us, eh? It's great being in your 30s. I fucking love it.
There's people out there doing podcasts who are hitting it big time at the weekends, crazy rock and roll stories. They're basically on death's door. That's not us.
Well, I know yesterday it was 10 years since I started my old podcast and live thing, Detour.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Oh yeah.
And I was talking about it, and I used to...
You were more interesting then.
I was drunker constantly, but I used to work in Inverness, get a train down at 4 o'clock, arrive at Block on a Wednesday, put on the gig from 9 till 3, DJ, get fucking hammered, then go back to my pal's flat, party until about 5:30, sleep on the floor for 45 minutes, then go get a train back to Inverness that left at 6:55, get into Inverness at 10 and then go to work. And that was unsustainable.
Do you think?
No shit.
Do you think you were good at your job?
Well, my boss left and I ended up being the only person that worked for that company.
You were both the best and worst employee.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was great. But anyway,
Did that take
we're all
years off your
fucked
life? That sounds like I would have taken years off your life.
now. Oh, absolutely. I've not got long left, to be honest.
When did you start drinking?
When I was 13.
Wow.
It's the Highlands. Nothing else to do.
I heard, I didn't know you at this time, but a friend of mine who I play in a band with now, and is a friend of Chris's, and works in a place that we all go to a lot.
Yeah, who also got horribly fucked up at the weekend.
Was saying that you used to fucking love Bucky. I used to see you drinking all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you at this point.
I used to, like, my blood type was Buckfast. Yeah, when me and my cousin used to DJ with Buckfast, we'd get through between 2 and 3 bottles in a night.
Wow.
It's a lot of product placement in tonight's episode.
That is incredible.
Yeah. Well, to counteract that, my dad, when I'd just turned 12, I was maybe even 11, but I just turned 12, I think, and he gave me a 500ml can of K cider, which,
Oh, I remember that.
for those that know, is about 8.4%.
Yeah, shit.
And I remember I sat down on my floor in my room against the radiator, because I had a radiator in my wall and it was nice and cosy, and I remember as I worked my way down the can, the room slowly tilting through 90 degrees until I was lying perfectly sideways on the floor with a can empty, giggling like crazy. That was my first experience of getting drunk.
What a dream.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Funnily enough, last night I was at a gig where I don't think anybody was drunk. Steve Houseshield at the Hug and Pint, friend of the podcast, Ben Power was there. Ben, aka Blank Mass.
Yeah, he passed out on the couch that you were sitting at.
Well, do you know what? I think he was ready for getting pretty fucked up when I met him, but it was hilarious. So the man Steve Houseshield, he used to be in a band called the Emeralds, and it's just very ambient, synthy.
Really, well,
it's really cool.
I am 100% nominating one of their records.
Oh, Emeralds are fucking great. Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. But yeah, I've never seen such a specific demographic in one room. It was 55 to 62-year-old men who spend 38% of their income on modular synths.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It was fucking brilliant.
Definitely.
But yeah, that was fun. So anyway, today, what are we doing today? Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah, it's your turn.
It's my
Don't
turn.
fucking look at me, man. I had to try and memorise it.
Yeah, it's been a little while since we did a hip hop record, and funnily enough, it's nearly the end of the decade, guys. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it's fucking terrifying.
It's actually crazy.
Well, AV Club are doing a really good series of articles just now on like the 2010s, and it's a lot of the stuff's pretty interesting, and it feels like just yesterday a lot of it.
Yeah,
which is kind of terrifying.
I know. Well, popping up on the occasional best of 20, what is it, the 2010s list of like underrated hip hop records and hip hop records you might have missed, and hip hop artists that are still underground and should be bigger, is this chap called Billy Woods.
Broke up on impact, I swam from the wreckage, all on the water, oceans of fire, township necklace. Sink or swim now, big waves, I hit him like ow, Wingate and lit him, silent.
And specifically this album called History Will Absolve Me, although there's another record or two that do pop up on the lists, but I've gone for this one because it's the one when it came out I really got into, and I think it's well, we'll discuss it. I think it's his most his clearest work. But yeah, Billy Woods, he's not the Billy Woods who DJs in Glasgow all the time.
At the Berkeley Suite.
At the Berkeley Suite. Just like that time my pal was in a taxi and we were going to see Danny Brown, and the taxi man says, Danny Brown, he's for Govan.
You're like, we're going to see him.
Well, that's him. But yeah, so Billy Woods, have either of you heard of him before?
I had not heard of him.
Christopher?
Is that rhetorical?
I don't know why I hadn't heard of him before.
Yeah. Well, that's it. He seems to like sort of slip underneath the radar a lot of the time. He's never, signed to a major. He's never had any like big hits. Yeah, it's interesting. So looking at his background, a bit about him, he was born in Washington DC, and his mother was from the West Indies,
Jamaican, and
an English lit professor, and then his dad was from Zimbabwe and Rhodesia. Well, exactly. And
was a Marxist.
Yes, indeed. Which I think maybe shapes his philosophy down the line.
Well, yeah, I mean, his dad's career in politics played a big part in his childhood as well as his own beliefs.
Yeah, so they moved back to Rhodesia, aka Zimbabwe, in 1980.
81.
Thanks.
I'm telling you, man, because I have so little to contribute to the genre, I have to memorise the little
well, do you want to give me some more minute details about his upbringing then?
Yeah, his father died in 1994, and they returned to the United States. They moved about a diaspora of quite a big family in that interim period. His dad went back to Rhodesia, which was becoming Zimbabwe once the peace talks started. He was a bit of a devotee of Mr. Robert Mugabe. Robert Mugabe forms the cover art, controversially, forms the cover art of this album, just a big goddamn portrait of him. And the title, History Will Absolve Me, is a quote from a Castro speech.
Yep.
History, by the way, didn't absolve him. He makes a lot of literary references in his work, and he says he obviously gets a lot of that via his mum. Apparently, I was listening to some interviews. He seems like a really nice guy, and he's, even though some of his rhetoric seems a bit blunt, when you actually hear him talking, he's a very nuanced thinker. Famously, he doesn't ever show his face.
Yeah, there's like very few, if any, like official portraits of him.
Any pictures of him that you can see him are candid ones. They're not actually like approved, like publicly approved ones. They're all he kind of pixelates them out or takes them in ways that you just can't make anything out.
He makes reference to that in one of the songs of this record as well.
And he said he has had pressure to try and bring his face out, that people like managers and advisors and friends and fans and enthusiasts have suggested to him that maybe that gimmick is holding him back a little bit, the lack of identifiability, relatability, and he said he's just going to persevere with it. He's like, look, if it works, if this pans out into something bigger, great. If it doesn't pan out into something bigger, then at least I failed on my own terms. That's kind of
it's worked out all right for Burial. So, but I mean, in the world of hip hop, I think you can see a lack of identity and a lack of a sort of visible personality would definitely hold you back.
Well, it also means that kind of leads a bit to like almost a lack of bling, and in the rap and hip hop world, that lack of like ostentatious grandstanding that comes from keeping yourself out of the product, if you will, the overall artistic product, is quite counterintuitive for that style of music. You compare this to Atrocity Exhibition by Danny Brown, which we did a couple of months ago, and I mean, Danny Brown talks about himself a lot, and Billy Woods doesn't necessarily talk about himself. He talks first person quite a lot, but it's quite often you're unsure if it's a character that he's talking about, or if he's narrating a story. When he does talk about himself, it's more about his experiences rather than He's actually that interview he does with Open Mike Eagles is good. It's on Mike Eagles' podcast, and he's got some really interesting reflections on his childhood as well, growing up in the young Zimbabwe. He said that a lot of it was actually very similar to growing up in a sort of lower middle class or upper working class Western country at times, because the political situation and the economy at that time was still quite stable. A lot of the infrastructure was still there. The decay hadn't really set in as the folks that had taken power, who really were underqualified to have power or didn't have the necessary help that they should have had as well, given the attitude of the British as they left. He said a lot of it was quite typical at that early point, although you had this added factor of you started to see things like dead bodies. He's like that aspect of it, the encroaching violence, those little elements did start to leave him a little bit jaded. And so it's quite hard to tell when he's sort of taking an assumed character and assumed voice, and when he's actually speaking about personal experience in the tracks. I mean, I'm sure you guys figured that one of the things that would make this sort of of more interest to me, given my very limited sort of involvement in hip hop and rap, is that it's very political. It's very intelligent lyricism. It's very analytical and quite poetic.
Yeah.
I absolutely, definitely warm to that. That made it a lot easier to go with it. And
There's also a sort of knowing sense of like irony and self-awareness and sarcasm throughout as well, which a lot of hip hop lacks.
I think he gets off as well on the, like I said, even for the fact that the Mugabe thing on the cover, it's hard. I tried really hard, obviously, to work out, how Ernest does that, and I think there is an element of trolling in that. I think, to some extent, he has a sympathy with how Mugabe set out, and what he was hoping to achieve or professed to hope to achieve, but also is realistic and how far short that fell. But I think there's almost an element, and you mentioned this actually last week when we said we were going to do this, that I think he likes to antagonise when it comes to racial issues from a constructive sort of angle of trying to elicit conversation and critique.
I think he's asking questions rather than
he is trying to provoke a lot of the time, but provoke in a sort of intelligent manner, or just a way that makes you talk about something a bit more meaningful rather than dross. And like, I appreciate that as well. So I didn't want to take anything too literally. He definitely comes across as a really smart guy. So it'd be kind of stupid to sort of, not interpret irony into a lot of these things, because it's clearly there. So can I ask one thing though, right? So he's been involved in a whole bunch of projects.
Yeah.
And his first record was a record called Camouflage.
Times of feelings mad strong, almost enough to pick up the phone. Billy, watch what you think. Finish that drink, get the optics pink. Life is written in ink, it dries before you blink. That's my inner shrink.
Which was like a sort of really long, that was more of a mixtape rather than a studio album. But
and it was a long time in development, and he set up that backwards recording. Is that right?
Which is still going on.
Yeah, so he set that up though, really, to initially release that. There's a record after that. Is that under his own name, or is that one of the side projects, or is that like an album versus a mixtape? I couldn't really quite, to be honest.
Do you mean The Chalice?
The Chalice is the second one, maybe. Or I couldn't quite delineate what was under his name, Billy Woods, and what was under different projects.
Yeah, well, I mean, Camouflage was released in 2003 and then re-released again with maybe some additional tracks. I think he counts The Chalice as his official debut record.
Oh, right, okay.
And everything that came before that was like mixtapes and EPs.
So Camouflage should be a sort of ex-military type vibe.
Yeah, totally. And then after The Chalice, he ended up spending sort of 6 or 7 years being in bands, actually being in collectives. The Reavers released a record called Terra Firma in 2005, and that was very political hip hop.
What's called Armand Hammer as well?
Yeah, he's been he's worked with Armand Hammer a lot, and then a lot of the 2000s was taken up with the Supertron or Kron Fight Collective.
Yeah, I didn't that,
and he released 3 records with them, I think, maybe
in a row.
4. So that was between 2007 to 2010. Kind of funky, kind of angry sort of stuff.
Wings black as a dead sun. Antimatter. He put his hands on my mom, and all I wanted for Christmas was a gun. Watch the blood spatter. Don't trust anyone.
Billy Woods is definitely the star of that band. And it's interesting that it doesn't it limits his personality, even though he was still faceless in them as well as being faceless in his own stuff. So he'd released The Chalice in 2004, which, as his sort of proper debut studio album, is actually a really, really good record, I think.
I see dead people, photo albums and yearbook pages, rusting gilded cages, oxymoronic like slave wages, pressure build till it cracks gauges, swallow pride, mouthfuls of raisins.
Sort of mixture of funk and aggressive, a sort of definite MF Doom sort of vibe going on. It's got some really good tracks on it. I think my favourites are Capture the Flag, Damage, Cross My Heart.
I know he got, there's a lot of different names that get dropped in and out of reviews of his work and stuff, but one that kept coming up was KRS-One.
Yeah, definitely. He's an interesting character in that he seems to be an outsider even in alternative hip hop.
Yeah, they called it a prog hop.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And on that 2004 record, the beats are quite interesting. He shows that he's like definitely aware of like some good, interesting production. There's also some like properly kind of dated, old-fashioned sort of vibes on it as well. But some really good hooks and some really great lines. And then I don't think he's shown off to his maximum capability in these acts over the next few years.
Yeah.
And then he comes back in 2012 with this History Will Absolve Me. And then he's done 4 records since then, actually. He's actually released 2
this year.
in 2019.
What was the first one of this year?
It was called Hiding Places.
The Hiding Places.
The whole operation underwater. It's only one God. What we said and tore aboard. The bombs was on us. The bombs was on us. Came back to God like, motherfucker, you promised. You promised.
I'd seen a couple of reviews that said that that's debatably his best record as well. That it's a really strong release.
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, so he released Dour Candy in 2013, which was like way less political and much more sort of reflective record.
Ironically, his first ever Pitchfork review was for that.
Was it? Yeah. Funnily enough, History Will Absolve Me came out in 2012, sort of same time as Ex-Military and like Danny Brown and all this like alternative hip hop, but he never got the Pitchfork review until a year later, and they sort of realised that they maybe missed the boat on that one.
See, going back to some of that early stuff just very quickly, another reference that comes up a lot is Cannibal Ox.
But these niggas is nice.
Pop shit, apocalypse, topple propaganda, force fed to the populace. My thoughts run the gamut from outstanding to preposterous. On top of this, I move posterior from impoverished to posturing. A process accomplished.
And the album Cold Vein, which is like a total underground classic, especially for this kind of like.
Probably going to go up for nomination on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, if I was ever going to nominate a hip hop thing, it would probably be that.
Aye.
But Vordo Omega, one of the members of Cannibal Ox, played quite a big part in his early years.
Yeah.
He actually, Vordo Omega, he credits him as being very, very supportive early on, and he appeared on Camouflage quite heavily, I think. He was in quite a number of tracks. But he'd actually done an audition. It was at the audition thing, or the initial recording thing, was at Electric Lady Studios, and he was describing that process as being like really dispiriting, because he got invited along to this thing, and there was a manager and then a couple of other kind of entourage people and an engineer, and he said every time he went to drop this verse in this recording, the engineer would just cut him off until he'd do it again, and then he'd try it again, he would do it again, and he said he was getting loads of side eyes from the entourage, and just he walked out of there feeling really downtrodden and questioned, maybe I'm just really not cut out for this. But he said Vordo Omega kind of pumped him up a wee bit again, got him back on the horse. He ended up doing that first record with his support. But it's interesting because it was shortly prior to History Will Absolve Me coming out, he said he'd had a little bit of a crisis of confidence, and this felt like a make or break thing. Yeah. Because Backwoods had been going for a while. It wasn't easy because apparently the distribution deal, they got it just prior to the kind of collapse. Their distributor, I think, collapsed 18 months after they got the distribution deal. And then that is at the point that all the money was draining out the system in like 2004, 2005, that kind of era. So he was really unsure if this was something he was going to be able to pursue long term. The album did kind of take and did get a good response, and that kept him in it, and has kept him in it since. But it is interesting how many times he's felt a little bit unsure if this was his calling. But yeah, so it just seems like Vordo Omega and Cannibal Ox, as well as being reference points in a lot of different conversations about his work, played a big part in the early years.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, funnily enough, so Vordo Omega was part of the Reavers in that 2005 record. It's interesting to see who he's worked with, both MC wise and production wise. And in fact, that Dour Candy record differed from other records in that he only used one producer on that. It was like straight up this guy called Blockhead.
That's right, he did
really good. And it's quite a cohesive record. It is good.
Scurvy and rickets, just another mission from the edge of irrelevance. I've been on that Ralph Ellison. Nowadays flow meticulous, ridiculous embellishments. They said it's easy money, but I just can't trust it. She said I love you.
I just think A$AP Rock.
Yeah. In fact, I think A$AP Rock's on that record. I think he's got a feature on it, and I really like the production. I just don't think it's quite got the vitality or like the urgency of a couple of his other records. Funnily enough, I was torn between History Will Absolve Me and then 2015's Today I Wrote Nothing.
Looking like the one that got away. Survivor's guilt like runaway slave. Dad's coffin in the house for 2 days. Lenin lying in state. Grabbed the gats, had a fucking parade. Ticker tape on the graves. Smoke like grease.
Which is, I think, is just a fucking really great
It's
record.
a good album, man.
There's some massive tracks on that. It's sort of less focused than History, but there's just so many ideas going on, and I think that's where he works, is like pulling in different producers and getting loads of different ideas happening. If you like this record, then you should definitely go listen to that one as well. It deserves sort of multiple listens. I think you find lots of stuff going on.
What swung you on this one though?
I just think the political message of it, and it's got some fucking great tunes on it, and I think it was, as I say, that sort of make or break record for him. He'd been away, he'd released, a good debut album and a mixtape, then he'd gone and done stuff in sort of groups, and then just come back with this fucking vital record. I think that is I think History has proven him right, not absolved him, but it's like sort of made it more pertinent.
I mean, do you think, like, first, can we clear up just a little detail, because I know there's multiple versions of this.
So I think the 18 track version was the one that was released originally, and then
there was a vinyl reissue this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, vinyl reissue with an extra track that featured
Open Mike Eagle
on it.
Right, so I've got the version you've got, David.
Yeah.
And then there's a 20 track version which has got Vord Omega at the end on the Darkness as well.
Yeah.
The Darkness as well.
Right.
So, but I think we're going to talk about the 18 track version, like the original release. Although that track with Open Mike Eagle is actually really good.
Okay, see, just to avoid quoting wrong numbers, then I'm just going to name the tracks by name when it comes to that, because I don't actually know for sure if the sequence was changed or if they're just added on the end.
The sequence wasn't changed. One was added in, what we can talk about.
It was added in at 17.
One was added in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, even just the 18 tracks, one of the things that does stick with me is that it's a very dark tone to this album. It's not like a particularly danceable album. There are a couple of good moments in it in terms of obvious kind of potential bangers, albeit the BPM is just a little bit sluggish for that kind of thing. But I found it so, I mean, an analogy that would maybe apply is like, it was a bit like watching American football with me, right? So I'm not an American football fan, but every so often something happens that it's exciting.
You can really appreciate it.
Or you're like, wow, look at what that guy did, or fucking hell, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But also, it's far too fucking long.
Aye.
And I think that's how I felt about this. I was like, I did enjoy bits of it. I could really appreciate the skill, and the production of it was cool. I liked the tactics, if you know what I mean. But I found it dragged on.
Well, do you know what? I think that's something that he hasn't got away from on any of his records.
Well, his new one, the one with Kenny Segal, what was that called again?
Hiding Places.
That's quite succinct in comparison to a lot of his other stuff.
Yeah,
it's 47 minutes long, that.
Today I Wrote Nothing was for me the other contender, and it's a similar length, and it's got like 19 tracks, I think.
I think I struggle with that. I struggle with hip hop.
I'm totally the same, obviously. To be honest. If like there was 12 amazing tracks on or if he could easily cut 5 of the more sort of classic hip hoppy tracks. I think we can like go through the tracks one by one, but there's like just a few that I don't think reach the level of interest or excitement that the peaks do.
I think it's quite interesting, just in terms of this podcast, right? Because when we've picked hip hop records, for the most part, they've been shorter ones. I think the longest one we've probably done is Public Enemy, and that album is too long anyway. Yeah. The other ones have been like POS, which is a short record, or LP, which is quite a short record, Sage Francis, etc.
Which maybe reflects our sensibilities.
I think so. Like,
definitely.
I'm the same as you guys. Like, when a hip hop record like goes over the 50-minute mark, you're going to struggle to hold my attention. You just are, because there's stuff that definitely doesn't need to be on there. And I know a big staple of hip hop is the records are long anyway. Like, that is a huge thing. Like, they're just expansive samplings of every single skill this artist has, or every single producer that they love the beat of, and they just like slap some words on it. That's definitely a feature that perhaps maybe we don't quite doesn't quite resonate with us.
Yeah, it's 3 metal or punk fans.
Yeah. Are you saying that white guys usually prefer them shorter?
And that also trickles down to like white hip hop artists as well, though, because they also do like long hip hop records as well. I think it's just in their tradition, to be honest.
So, well, I mean, I guess the easiest way for me to approach it was there was 3 tracks on this that really jumped out to me. The rest I was fine with, and I really admire the political ambition of it. I love the antagonism of it, and I've got fucking loads and loads of time for people doing hip hop and rap that are kind of staying true to that sort of meaningful punk rock spirit of it, where it's actually fucking relevant to people's lives, rather than just being this horrible aspirational fucking QVC of audio, so I mean, if you guys go through the track list, I can only really interject with the ones that really jumped out and why they jumped out.
Yeah, sure thing. So we start off with High Tide, Miss Enigma.
You thought I would sing proudly. I'm deep in the drink, sloppy. You get a couple bars, I'm cheap with the ink. You need to guard your spot with wide as ball. Run flat tires on cars, high tech optic.
Which is like sort of long intro.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It feels like a long intro.
Yeah, it's got like proper dark horror movie synths, like cut up drums. I really like the production on this.
The beat is cool, man. It's such a and the sample at the end really adds to the easy atmosphere of like bringing you into the record.
Yeah,
there was a lot of like chat about like Bomb Squad influence on the beat work in the album.
Aye, absolutely.
I got a lot more LP out of that than anything else, to be honest. This is the most LP sounding record that I think he's got, because it's got a lot more electronic influence and those kind of drony things going on.
There was a comparison. Is it Def Jux that he started? Yeah, there was a lot of like references to that as well in the discussion of the sound. Yeah.
Crocodile Tears is kind of more like low-key Death Grips, I would say.
No favors, Oakland Raiders, Empire in decline, but still got plenty paper. Penny wise, pound foolish. Bring the mountain to Muhammad, move pound stupid. Acapellas, the beast chopped it and looped it. Doing some minor keys, bars and
it's like got that analog, like live drum sound. Sort of welcome to this. He's like, now this could be an angry record. And you can tell, and it's interesting, like this is like lyrically, like this is your first one of, is this who he is or is he playing a character? I'm not quite sure like what the narrative of this record's going to be, but I mean, there's a bit of violence in here, but it's not like gangster violence.
Yeah,
it's like real sort of working class violence.
The hook is cracking in this as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a really good song. I think it's like a big sort of start after that intro.
The one thing I think, I'll probably come to this a couple of times when we talk about the rest of the tracks, but I found this flow to be quite inconsistent. See, when it's on point, it's fucking great.
Yeah,
but sometimes he tries to do like maybe something of a character, something a bit different, and it doesn't really quite land for me. An example which is not that is the next song, The Man Who Would Be King, which is a total jam.
This was the first track I heard, I think, from this record and by him, and I think it's fucking amazing.
Benevolent God, blue-eyed Prometheans in the heart of darkness, land of the monsters, walk like Quetzalcoatl amongst the conquered, dig hard, put myself in the stars, this woman in the dirt, face down, ass up, doing God's work, go native, the world is...
Like, I had this in a little 2012 playlist along with like Death Grips and a couple other of like fucking hip hop I'm really fucking into.
Yeah.
And
the theme is awesome as well, man. It's obviously about colonialism, but it's about how like nobody won in Africa. The Europeans didn't win.
Yeah.
And the Africans just certainly didn't fucking win.
Yeah.
It's all about that kind of push and pull. And it's got that sample from Empire of the Sun. That's Christian Bale singing.
Yeah.
And that sample and Empire of the Sun, which is a really cool kind of, I suppose, a film's a bit about colonialism that's in itself, right? So it's a nice little smart nod to that, I think.
And I love that the old movie sample as well. I think like the Mogambo, and it's just, to me it just sounds really fucking vital and urgent. And it's like, I'm just like keeping looking over at Chris to see if does he like this one? Does he like? No, he's keeping it stum on this one. Then track 4, Cash for Gold.
Face, yet I'm seeing much clearer. George Washington works his modest magic. Parlor tricks, erotic services. Do I know you from Craigslist? Cheap thrills is expensive. Living the dream. In her mouth like a dentist. Deep throat the pyramid scheme.
I think this is great.
I think it's great, man. I love the narrative of it. It's like it's almost like deconstructing like the black popular music myth. Like this is what happens when you actually get the strippers and you get the fucking cash and all the gold shit, and it's totally. It's worth fucking nothing, and I love that.
It's like so anti like the normal hip hop narrative of bling. Yeah, exactly.
It sounds pure sleazy with that whomping bass as well. It sounds like you're outside the strip club, and it's like that's kind of the vibe you're getting.
And the sample's fucking great as well. I love it. Next up, Body of Work.
Exhausted. I pray my sins don't fall upon my offspring. grown man pants, wallets and IDs, health insurance policies, wallabies and collard greens. Eating right, these define the things in life.
Track 5.
That's a great song.
That's a great sample as
See,
well.
the tambourine, it sounds like this chains rattling from the,
Aye,
like,
totally.
from the sample at the start, which I thought was super smart, man.
I think like the main thing that makes that song stand out as a newbie, like a total newbie, it's really easy to get into that one because the beat is so direct.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's like mega slow, but it's fucking great.
It's really, really
thumping.
strong and catchy and fucking dead easy to just, you know, it just pulls you in from across the room. And I think that was one of the easiest ones to sort of really tune into.
And I also love the old school like jazz flute. Coming
jazz,
in and out.
yeah, that's
I'm
a
like
nice
that
touch.
totally takes you back to like smoky clubs and
Yeah, so I think musically that one made a lot of sense based on my sort of sensibilities.
Then next up we've got The Foreigner.
it didn't really land for me, this one.
I see. This is like one of the first one. Well, this is the first one on the record that I'm like, this is like an old school sort of filler hip hop track.
Yeah, totally.
Call it fate. Rose like a pipe head on a crack stem when Bodines hit the gate. Night riders in reconstruction, gentrification. Crackers got suction, righteous among the nations. Hebrews bailed him out. Codees hit the state pen. Staying with my ex.
And yeah, for me, this is definitely one that if it wasn't there, I wouldn't mind at all. Hey, it's fine. It's good. It's just one of these tracks that's like average sample. Like it flows good, but you know.
Could have done without it, really.
Yeah, exactly. But then it moves on to Bill Cosby.
DVD got special features. GOD got them Schwarzenegger heaters. Choppers, egg beaters. Arms long enough to box with GOD. But the enemy watch for blasphemers. Road top bomb blast. Caught your son is beamers. Went to Walter Reed and he ain't wanna see you.
Which is weird, man.
I really like it.
I have to admit,
It's a good song,
That
yeah.
isn't one of my three, but I did think it was
It's good. The beat is like pure twisted and jaunty. It's like weird jaunty. It's
Yeah,
you know,
it's like
you know something about this song that's dead weird, maybe as a reference point, but the piano line in it coupled with the drums is almost like a Paper Chase song. You know, John Congleton's band, that really jaded, sort of like slightly creepy, sinister kind of like the key that it's played in. That it's very odd, and it really reminded me of almost like the first 30 seconds of a Paper Chase song before it kicks in. It's anyway, that's what it brought to mind.
The thing that really struck me about it is like it's just super fucking depressing.
It is mega depressing, and it's like it's funny. It's not actually about Bill Cosby, really. It's just about like not the American dream, but about family life and what it's really like, rather than this sort of sitcom dream or whatever.
Yeah.
When did Bill break?
I must have been like 14 or 15, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, like it was going around for years though. Like it was like
I think he may well have used that in a sort of knowing wink as a title, much like people knew about Jimmy Savile.
Yeah, I suppose.
But yeah, and it's funny. It's like that piano riff to me seems, because it's kind of one of the ones that you could dance to maybe on the record. But I mean, as long as you didn't listen to the lyrics. But then it's also like that piano riff is kind of like a sort of prelude to Kendrick Lamar Humble with that really simple piano riff, but it's just a little bit more weird and wonky and slightly just disturbing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if that was played on like a music box, it would be fucking creepy as fuck.
Totally.
Definitely. Then next up we've got track 8, I think, which is Friedman's Bureau.
Allegation waiting where the autopsy toxicology lab, and they knocking if it was one of your I bet they hide a city sound the fuck up. Bust it down and we can slay. You can't stop the bum rush. Tactics of a lesser.
You like this one, Chris?
Don't care.
I like this one. I really like it.
It's fucking great on this song, man.
Yeah.
The way the layers of synth kind of like build up on top of each other, but it's got like a kind of trap beat as well, which kind of differentiates it from the rest of the records. And then the hook is kind of really distorted and a bit twisted and messed up. And
Stay the point, pervert the story, it's all design. Vulture time, crooked dicks and deep pockets. Lifetime desk job offers with full coverage. One hand wash the other, loyalty is given. Who you calling the victim?
And it's the first time you hear Lucid in the record as well, and I actually quite like his flow. It's the first time I'd ever heard him. Like, I'm probably going to go and listen to him actually. He's
done a few things throughout his discography, and like a lot of his stuff's really cool on it actually. But yeah, and I like the lyrics on that. They're like his idea of he doesn't quite fit into gangster life, you know, as an immigrant, and doesn't fit in with other immigrants and stuff like that. But yeah, then next up after that we've got Blue Dream, I believe.
In bed, not sleeping, she teasing, legs spread, mouth wet, seasonal fruit, stuck in my head like the perfect glue. Slow burn, smoky eyes, lotion dies, suddenly realizing you're alive. Like one day I'm gonna die, but right now I'm alive.
Yeah, I think this is the best song.
I really like this. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, it's got a very LP vibe. The production on this, like the
great wee synth. Like it feels really big.
That the kind of the root synth, like the kind of basis of the song, is really strong. But also those little kind of augmented flutters, the high end synth flutters are really effective.
Yeah, it's like a bell like thing almost.
It's just it's just a really well modulated little tone. The backward tapes thing that brings it in and runs throughout is a really good touch, I think.
It's got some bits of like 8-bit synth in it as well, which kind of just jump in and out, which is like really cool too.
Again, the beat's really straightforward, but the roominess in the beat gives it a lot of energy.
I think it works really well where it is in the record as well, because it's kind of got that major key part to it, and it kind of breaks up quite how oppressive the record is.
I could totally have done without the female vocal though.
I think it looks good.
I quite like it.
I think it lifts the record at this point.
I feel it kind of leans into a bit of a trope, but you know, fuck Dano.
Then next up we've got DMCA, which is another sort of old school one.
No, nobody aboard no time, cause they flooded the timepiece. Sound asleep under high thread count sheets. It's a whole nother world in first class seats. Ringtones on phones and video game licensing fees. I don't know much, but got some education.
This is maybe one that I could have lived without as well.
I liked the kind of, I totally had that Def Jux feel, that early 2000s like indie hip hop kind of vibe, which I quite liked.
Yeah,
and I love the scratching at the end, man. It's properly cliche at this point, but
it's got energy. It definitely brings energy. And then after that we've got Pompeii, which like slows it right back down. It's all broken and dramatic.
Thrice, the ghost came, past, present, future. Price on the dome, so chunky anyone could be the shooter. Then lay low as you lie down. Uneasy is the head that rocks the crown.
I like this. Like a callback to The Man Who Would Be King almost, right?
Yeah, totally.
I've written here like it's really menacing. It actually feels like a tension just before a jump scare in a horror film.
Totally. I'd written it's got like horror movie vibes again. Which kind of go back to first track as well. Then Duck Hunt. Just got some cool samples.
This is number 3 for me. I really like that. I thought, but obviously the novelty of the kind of whole NES Duck Hunt.
That made me laugh when I first heard it.
It's a kind of playful one of the most playful bits in the whole record, which is quite serious overall. But the squelchy synth in this one is dead well chosen.
It's a proper 90s throwback sound.
Totally.
It really works, man. It's got some booty in it, and the trumpet lines in it are brilliant as well.
You can't talk about pussy like you trying to convince me. Go ahead, dog. See how close you and your niggas be. Self-described pretty G's with fly bitches on their tweets. But me, I'm Delonte West, your old
I think maybe the common theme here is it's another straighter beat. I like the straighter beats. I think they're really effective in it, but it's got a slightly darker vibe to it. Even though it's got that playful intro, it's got a darker kind of instrumentation to it, and it's just got a fair bit of groove, which I think some of the tracks in it, like I said, I mean, it's not something I'm particularly in the market for anyway, but I don't think a lot of it has a particularly danceable, you don't feel compelled to kind of get moving, but this one has a bit more to it.
Yeah. Then after that we've got I like the name of this, Nigerian Email.
Play the hand you dealt. DC on melt, seeds popping 98, not to release your Delta HU Meridian. Bushweed got me feeling like a kid again. Traffic Island Gilligan, DWB, accept the pat down, second class citizen. No need for the sugar
which is another sort of dark and heavy one.
Everybody's had a Nigerian Email.
Yeah, absolutely.
Prince.
And this is another one where I think he's definitely playing a character. Aye, yeah, I like this track.
I like it. It does. I think, is that a flute thing? Maybe like from Nigerian, like traditional music. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And it's got a tribal beat, so it's definitely kind of feeling like it is.
Aye.
We should put on one of the many Nigerian God channels high up in the,
Oh yeah,
in
no,
the
I was
sky,
enjoying that.
the range. Yeah.
Then after that, we've got Pump Up the Volume featuring Lauren Kelly Benson, I believe. Old school track.
Very much so. Like cool samples, really nice guitar as well. But the hook is loud and in a different key.
It's weird, isn't it? I was listening to it on
weird,
headphones recently, and I was like, "Oh, that just comes out of nowhere."
Yeah.
It sounds like it's like, do you have another window in your computer open or
Exactly what
something?
I thought. I was checking my phone to see if like is there something playing in the background.
Yeah,
What
it's
the
a
fuck was going on?
slightly weird production thing going on, but
Some of the production is a bit meta. There's a couple of bits in this album. If you're listening on headphones, the police sirens really do sound like they're right next to you.
totally. Or you like, you look behind you because it pans right behind you. Then we've got Sour Grapes.
That was those famous last words, mate.
Oh, famous last words.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Good chunk classic in it, and the hook is weird but cool.
Up in them bunks with cats that's gas, cause it's hamburger helper for lunch. Face bash, CO's knuckles usually chuckle last. Mention the past, all you get is a Woody Woodpecker laugh. Exchanging me with bad words.
He's got a double tracked vocal on his hook.
Yeah.
I like how you
which is
clearly
awesome.
were reading off a note there, like, and the hook is weird but cool.
Yeah, because it's because it's double tracked though. It sounds like it makes it because it's double tracked. It actually makes the hook pop out of the song a bit more than I think it normally would. But good flow, man, and great synth as well.
So I think famous last words doesn't appear on the 18 track.
I got this on Spotify. I was listening to Spotify.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I'm slightly confused.
This is why I abdicated all responsibility for numbering.
Yeah, fair play.
Then it's Sour Grapes.
Then it's Sour Grapes, which to me I think should have ended it.
Say what you mean if you don't know, shut the fuck up. Cash rules everything, prevent a thing, code of conduct at ease. Man, a machine, compute supreme. Honest relieve your favorite days. Make the change you want to see, do you believe?
I think you're right, man. Yeah.
I think it's a good track, and it's kind of like, oh, this is why I'm angry. This album hasn't been for nothing. Kind of explaining it all. It wraps it up nicely. Ties it up nicely, and then you kind of come back with Human Resources, which is just a sort of
It's like an old school kind of
Proper old school, yeah.
hip hop song, yeah.
and it's fine.
Without his light, eternal night, cold to the bone. Copper on eyelids, I'm coming home.
It's good. It's like a good track, but I'm like, if you're cutting tracks off this record, which I think you probably should, then that would be one of the 3 or 4 to go. And then The Wake.
Kissed his forehead, good luck, tears anoint the crown. He lied to her anyway and toasted that night over pounds. Sterling, whispers and whirlwinds, Polaroid pictures, edges curling. At the auction, the contents of one storage space, sight unseen.
Is the final track on the Spotify version.
Yep.
Which is a very surprisingly upbeat track.
Yeah, given how awful the lyrics are.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It's called The Wake.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark.
It's
but,
like it's almost like subverting the idea of a wake. Like you go to a wake to like eulogize somebody, and he's just saying,
Yeah.
"No, this guy's life was fucking garbage. Like
Yeah.
he's a bad person." It's got a really laid back vibe as well,
Aye.
which like totally plays with the theme of the song, I think.
yeah, it's a good track. I probably wouldn't have finished on it, but I would have had it in there. And then then his track with Vordo Omega, The Darkness,
Yeah.
appears on the special or re-released edition. Which is pretty cool.
It sounds totally different to the rest of the record.
Yeah,
man.
it doesn't really fit.
Yeah, it's very sample heavy,
Yeah.
which old school, which I like. But yeah, I can see why that would have been left off
Yeah.
the original release.
So yeah, that's the record. For me, why did I choose this record? Because to me, I mean, fuck, it's like a hip hop record with Robert Mugabe on the front.
I mean, there's no getting away from the fact that it's unsung. I think you can't really.
I think he's definitely unsung, and I think this is unsung overall. I think for me, like hip hop is, it kind of lives in two worlds for me. It's like either really good lyrics or I listen to the production and, you know, don't really give a fuck about the lyrics.
Fun time.
Yeah, exactly. For me, this like gets a lot of some, like POS, it works on both levels for me. I really love the music and I also really love the message and the lyrics. Like the beats and the production are great, and I just think he's a really fucking interesting character. I think it's interesting that he feels like an outsider in hip hop in many ways. He feels like an outsider in America. He felt like an outsider in Zimbabwe. Yeah, and I think he's got a whole lot of shit in his discography that's worth checking out, and I think this is probably the record that's got the clearest message. I mean, it was in 2012, it's at the height of Obama mania, when everybody thought, oh, guys, racism is over.
He references that quite a lot in this record as well, which we didn't really mention, but he talks about the whole Obama thing and passes comment on how, like, by the way, guys, racism is definitely not over.
Yeah,
you know, and
I think cool. Like that was maybe a reason why it was kind of not picked up when it came out, was people weren't up for a critique of politics when they were sort of in the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah, it was sort of tone deaf. Aye. Even if the tone was pretty naive.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, and as with many hip hop records, I think it could be shorter.
Yeah.
I'd highly recommend going and checking out Today I Wrote Nothing. For me, it's got some fucking amazing bits on it. But I think this is just a really sort of urgent record. It's got some really cool stuff on it. I think he's a really interesting character.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so guys like me that are really into music but haven't become particularly invested in hip hop, one of the big alienating factors is, from my admittedly ignorant perspective, it's just saturated with dumb, stupid time music, more so than the early days of it, which seem, you know, a lot more vital and a lot more relevant and interesting. And I think certainly if we amplified more of the people on the fringes of it with more interesting things to say and perhaps more kind of unconventional approaches such as his, such as POS, people like that, people like me would be more involved in it. Maybe not, but I think we probably would, because musically it does make a lot of sense. I think I'm just shaking off a lifetime. I've been really turned off.
I mean, if you were brought up in another city, then this would be a thing that you could totally get into. I think just being in Glasgow.
Yeah, and I've no doubt this is where I would have gravitated to. So maybe an interesting thing, and to your credit as well, when I came here, I was like, I think I'm going to spoil my ballot in this one. But hearing you guys talk about it, yeah, you've talked me around, so I'm gonna put it in.
Great.
I fucking loved it, man. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed it so much. Even just in an ambient like sense, like having it in the background, it was just like bits were just jumping out to me, man.
Yeah, that's for me. Like even like the sort of filler tracks are still like good in the background in the car or whatever. I think it's like a great record to stick on. But then if you are going to delve deep into it, there's like so much depth in it, and like it's fucking abrasive at times, and it's aggressive and depressing. But like it's great.
It's not obnoxious as well, which like Chris says, a lot of hip hop can be. And it's definitely not. I admire the fact that he's a guy with a message,
but it's not preachy.
No,
like I think we've done.
Public Enemy.
Yeah, we've done political hip hop where it can be preachy and doesn't have a sense of humor. But this is a sarcastic record. Go for it.
The cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking sarcastic.
And like I also just love like the fucking text that's put on it. You know, it's like, it's not a fancy font and it's not small. It's like the text looks slightly too big and incongruous, and it's just like whacked on. Billy Woods, History Will Absolve Me, fucking Bobby Mugabe. Right, bring it on. So there you go. History Will Absolve Me by Billy Woods. I think it's got to go in. It's the definition of an unsung record by an unsung artist.
I hope you did it justice with your Nexus.
This is the first time we're seeing Nexus tonight. Will it be the last? What do they have in store for us? Not good.
Why am I here? You're in the Nexus. This is the Nexus. For you, this is what you want.
Yes, so our Nexus was chosen by Mr. Kenny Bonella. Hello, Kenny. And he went for Alan Hansen. And I don't think you could go from a blacker person to a whiter person.
Me?
Nah, you're blacker than Alan Hansen. You don't play golf.
He's got a handicap of 3.
I know, he's some fucking player. So for those of you who don't know, Alan Hansen was a Scottish footballer who played for Liverpool famously in the 80s when they were the best team in the world, and he was one of the best defenders in the world.
Yeah, and he became a fairly famous pundit afterwards.
Yeah, he was very well known in the 90s and 2000s. He was like one of the match of the day stalwarts, and he famously said
2014, didn't he?
Yeah, after the World Cup, which is interesting because he could have kept going on and spouting. He was one of the more interested ones because he was very sarcastic.
Unimpressed with the guys at the back there.
I'm not sure about the left back. He's not got the pace that he used to have. But yeah, so I've got to get from Billy Woods to Alan Hansen. It sounds like it should be easy just from their names. It sounds like they used
probably
to
live next door.
They share a flat in Cumnock.
Cumnock, yeah.
So Billy Woods, he's worked with a few different people, and as we mentioned on that record, in the first of his 2 in 2019, he worked with Kenny Segal, also known as Syndicate, who's a producer and DJ. Mixmag described him as one of the best hip-hop producers in LA in 2018, so I mean that's lovely.
That means something to somebody somewhere.
Right, so Kenny Segal originally played drum and bass at the Concrete Jungle Party in the 90s, which you would have definitely been doing, Chris, had you been brought up there rather than Stirling.
Not a doubt in my mind.
And at Concrete Jungle, he met rappers from the Project Blowed Collective. So the Project Blowed Collective was like an open mic workshop, and it was sort of very influential in underground hip hop in LA in the 90s. It featured lots of groups, MCs and dancers in the Southern California area. Sort of a testing ground for the LA independent rap scene, and reportedly people that attended that sort of open mic included Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, and Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz. Well, I mean, what do you say about Lenny Kravitz? He's
legendary shagger.
Legendary shagger. He won the Grammy Award for Best Male Rock Vocal Performance 4 years in a row. I didn't realise he only had 2 songs, and one of them was a cover.
Song, yeah.
He's not big here, but like he
was fucking huge in America. Yeah. So he's also married to Lisa Bonet, now known as Lilikoi Moon, who, funnily enough, played Denise Huxtable in The Cosby Show.
Wow. But
also went on to act in a few films, including High Fidelity, Enemy of the State, starring Will Smith, and also Biker Boys. Does anybody remember the movie Biker Boys?
I'm unfamiliar with this.
Biker Boys was basically a cash-in on the Fast and Furious and Gone in 60 Seconds vibe.
I thought that's what Torque was.
It was like a subpar Torque.
Fuck.
2003.
That's a bad part.
About underground motorbike drag racers. It features an ensemble cast, apparently. I mean,
here we go.
To me, including Derek Luke, Megan Good, Digimon Honsu, Brendan Fear. It also features Lisa Bonet, Lawrence Fishburne, and Kid Rock. Kid Rock in, I think, possibly his only real acting appearance. So, I mean, that's a film that we should definitely go watch.
Yeah, quit.
Kid Rock, a famous right-winger, Republican.
I feel like you're getting further away from Old Alan here, man.
Well, I mean, I could go straight in here. Here's Kid Rock playing golf with Donald Trump. So,
it's like the most Kid Rock thing.
I know. Kid Rock actually, he was criticised for selling T-shirts supporting Donald Trump that showed a map of the US, and it labelled the states which had voted against Trump as Dumbfuckistan.
I heard about that.
So that's cool. Anyway, Donald Trump at one point was married to a Czech American fashion model called Ivana Trump. They split up in the mid-90s, I think it was.
After he had affairs.
They were married from 77 to 91. Ivana Trump, I mean, She must be doing all right. She appeared in Celebrity Big Brother, Series 7 in 2010, along with Lady Sovereign, Cisco, Stephen Baldwin, another famous Conservative.
Yeah, he is.
Dane Bowers, a few others, and a Mr. Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Jones, film star and
right wing
defender. Was he not defender?
Yeah, right wing.
No, but I mean,
no, he was midfielder.
Politically right wing.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. Sorry, I got confused.
Easy mistake. Yeah,
he was a defensive midfielder, I think. Actually,
I thought he was right back.
Well, he was on the right. He played on the right, and he also votes Conservative.
Very,
very conservative. He shoots foxes, and in 1988, he was part of the famous Wimbledon team, the Crazy Gang, who won the FA Cup final against huge favourites Liverpool, and Liverpool were captained by Mr. Alan Hansen.
You slag!
Fucking slag.
Chris, take it away.
Okay, Billywoods. The song BBC on the Chalice, which I think stands for Backwoods Broadcasting Corporation, makes reference to war in the Middle East, to oil, and to Iraq and the Iraqi invasion in particular. That Iraqi invasion was largely enabled by Colin Powell's speech in 2003 to the UN, which cited false evidence from a guy called Ibn al-Sheikh al-Libi, which was extracted under duress after he was subject to something called extraordinary rendition to Egypt by the US military and the CIA, whereby they basically sort of arrest you and take you off American soil to the sort of no man's land of airports and what they call CIA black spots, where they can interrogate you without necessarily anybody knowing the jurisdiction and who can interfere. So extraordinary rendition took place across 54 countries, although some way more than others, and involved like dozens and dozens of detainees. One of the CIA black spots notoriously was Prestwick Airport. Outside of Glasgow, south of Glasgow.
Also the only place Elvis ever stepped
Shut
foot
the
on
fuck
the
up,
UK.
Scottish police actually tried to inspect a plane that had landed there after somebody at the airport reported it because they felt it was part of this extraordinary rendition, and the police were prevented from accessing the plane, which caused quite a fuss because they were like, but we're in Scotland, but they were like, well, you're not. You're in the airport. It was quite an awkward situation. Prestwick Airport, as you probably haven't heard, is the only place in the UK where Elvis Presley ever set foot. This was March the 3rd, 1960, for just about an hour during a flight transfer on his way to military service in Germany. Hence, there's an Elvis Presley bar there, I think.
You can buy a pint for £5.50 or a bacon roll for £7.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's all they sell. Just pints and bacon rolls.
So some years later, a musician called Declan Patrick Aloysius McManus would decide that probably wasn't the best name to perform under, so he started calling himself DP Costello, named after his dad's stage name. That still wasn't the best name to perform under, so he took Elvis from Elvis Presley and became Elvis Costello.
If you've done what I think you've... No, carry on.
Yep. I don't know if I have or not. And Elvis Costello, Declan Patrick Aloysius McManus, was a massive Liverpool fan. In a 2000 interview, he actually said, it was the kind of banner line of the interview, most people get into bands to meet girls, I got into bands to meet Alan Hansen. And in fact he did, because he was on that Badil and Skinner, is it Fantasy Football League? Is that the show that used to be on?
Yeah.
Stato on it, and he was photographed in that. He also used to make appearances on Gazzetta Italia and stuff. But
one of my favourite ever Gazzetta Football Italia things, a big part of my childhood, was when Elvis Costello appeared on it, and then James Richardson, who's famous for his puns, went through all the Italian football scores and made Elvis Costello pun about every single one, and it was great, like Oliveira's Army, etc. It was really good.
Yeah, that's quite clever.
Nice.
Anyway,
James
Mark.
New stuff.
Yeah, so as we've already discussed, Open Mike Eagle is on this record, and he's worked with Billy Woods a few times. Most recently, Open Mike Eagle contributed some vocals to the song "Nice to See You" on the new Two Door Cinema Club album called False Alarm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's underwhelming.
Ignominious reputation.
In July 2012, Danny Boyle asked the lead singer Alex Trimble to take part in the 2012 Summer Olympics opening ceremony in London.
Something that we've touched upon a few times.
Yeah. And he sang the song Caliban's Dream, which was written
Something
by
of a nexus.
written by the guy from Underworld, Rick Smith. In the closing ceremony, the closing ceremony was called a symphony of British music, and included, as you can imagine, a fucking ton of British artists, including Take That.
Yeah.
Fucking love Take That. They performed the song Rule the World, and in that performance they were not joined by former, then rejoined, then former, and then rejoined, I think, then now former again, occasional member Robbie Williams.
Yeah.
He was not in the band.
Robbie Williams is only 4 years older than you, Chris.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
What do you want me to say?
I don't know. I feel like he should be older. I don't know. It makes me feel weird.
I feel like I should be younger, and then we could just, that'd be the end of it.
Yeah, that would be better.
You are younger.
Alright, carry on, Max, sorry.
Robbie Williams was the narrator for Hooves of Fire, an episode of the comic relief stop motion animation Robbie the Reindeer, which was directed by Richard Curtis. And one of the characters in that is Alan Snowman, which is basically Alistair McGowan doing an impression of Alan Hansen.
Oh, yes. Great work. Lovely stuff.
There you go. And Alan Hansen is Alan Hansen, so
job done.
He is. Alright, so go vote for Billy Woods. Next week, what are we doing, Chris?
I've been waiting to pull the trigger on this for some time, and I think as we approach the end of year special and all that, it's one to go for. It is the album When Animals Attack by the band Cable, which is genuinely one of my favourite albums of all time, but also just a fascinating case study on the music industry and winning and losing and nearly men, and there's so many fucking things going on with this band, but first and foremost, that album is absolutely fucking outstanding, and the people that like it love it. So I think you'll probably
cool. Well, I'm looking forward to at least 40 pages of notes on that one. I can tell already.
Yeah, perhaps. But the problem is we've got the Pop Punk live special coming up as well. So
yes, indeed.
It's a lot of writing. It's a lot of writing. Yeah. But yeah, better pick a Nexus for that as well.
Yeah,
right?
who we get into from
the
Cable.
Band Cable.
On a little box. If you've got more suggestions for Next Eye, then please just leave a comment on our Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, that's suitably stirred.
Yeah, that's stirred.
And we are going to get from Cable to, for fuck's sake, Kevin Bacon.
No.
Okay. There we go. It's getting a bit meta from Tom Russell.
Okay. Well, I think he's just kind of cracked the whole point of this, right?
Great. That's fine. We could do that.
Right, thanks, Tom. Thanks for calling us on our 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon rip-off. Appreciate it.
It's only taken us almost 2 years.
Sound. Well, I have the dog end of a hangover to shed, I think.
Oh my God, you're on day 6.
Probably still a little bit of it just swinging there, ready to drop in the water. So, yeah.
Okay, well, it's been a treat. Thanks, bye.
Bye, guys. Wanna do some hard shit? Look in the mirror, the nigga rather duck and dodge than pay with my own mugging new your bitch.